Hello, all you people with the wisdom of the land out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
Can't trust those land wisdoms.
As we learned in this episode.
Yep.
This is Undeclared Bajor, the best Star Trek DS9 discussion podcast. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Yo.
Today we're going to discuss Star Trek DS9 Season 7, Episode 18, Till Death Do Us Part. Alternate title, Touched by an Angel.
Oh, very clever.
I was worried it was too obvious, but...
No, I don't think I would call that too obvious.
Too good to pass up.
Yeah.
This episode of Deep Space Nine originally aired April 14th, 1999. It was written by David Weddle and Bradley Thompson, and directed by Heinrich Kolbe.
Heinrich Kolbe. Heinrich Kolbe. German.
Yep, his last directing job on Deep Space Nine.
Oh no. Well, I mean, there's only like 8 episodes left or something, so... And Sir Lofton is in the episode.
Yeah, he's in like the first scene of the episode. He's right there.
True. Yep, I think he's like the very first person we see.
I think so.
But we will be discussing spoilers up through this episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, but we will try not to mention spoilers after this episode, so it should be safe to watch along with us if this is your first time watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine, but we don't care about spoiling other stuff, so sometimes we do that. But I'm a little behind on stuff, because I canceled a lot of my streaming subscriptions, so like I haven't seen the new Squid Game.
I watched the first new episode of Strange New Worlds that came out today, so
Nice.
I'm up on
Was it
that.
good?
It was like, a good conclusion to the cliffhanger from the previous season.
Oh, nice. I guess I gotta go back and start watching that, because everybody says it's good. But first things first, how would you rate the title, Till Death Do Us Part? I know I have one major complaint about it.
Well, so we talked about last time that the title for this episode was originally Umbra, because of the previous one being Penumbra.
Sure.
And I guess they were just like it mentions that again in the notes here, but it doesn't mention anything about like, here's why we decided to change it. I guess it's supposed to be obvious that they get married, so we're good. That's the title that it would go with.
I guess you could like reach for like this is Sisko making his commitment, like he's all in till death do us part or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it says, hey, this is a wedding episode, I guess, even though it's not really. That's like a small part of the episode. I don't know. It's okay. It doesn't scream to me like good name for one of the big final arc episodes. It feels kind of generic to me, but whatever.
I was mostly annoyed that they did not say till death do us part in the actual wedding vows.
Oh, well. That's because the vows are, like, there's a whole note. David Weddle wrote the vows based on Picard's speech when O'Brien and Keiko got married in the Next Generation episode Data's Day. And that speech was written by Ron Moore, who had based it on a speech that Kirk gave in the original series episode Balance of Terror. So, we're going back a long way.
I thought, because he says, like, till death parts you or something like that. And I was like, but the name of the episode is Till Death Do Us Part. You couldn't make them say that line?
Nope, sorry.
But previously on Deep Space Nine, Ezri flew out to the Badlands to rescue Worf, and then they crashed and got stranded on a planet where they banged, and then they got kidnapped by some Breen.
All that is accurate, yep.
Also, Gul Dukat showed back up on Cardassia, and he got plastic surgery to look like a Bajoran.
Yep.
And meanwhile, Ben proposed to Cassidy, but then his prophet mom showed up and told him not to get married.
And that's where we come into this episode with
Yep.
Jake being like, hold on, let me get this straight. some magic voodoo woman says, like, you shouldn't get married, and so you're not going to get married. Like, what the hell?
Right, yeah. Jake is strongly of the opinion that the prophets can go to hell and Ben should do whatever he wants.
Jake hasn't had the best experiences with the prophets, to be fair. Like, his dad keeps almost dying because of them.
True. He got into that weird Pa Wraith battle that one time, so...
That's true, yeah. He almost died because of the prophets, yep, so...
But yeah, Ben and Jake are having this whole conversation. Jake makes his position pretty clear. But this conversation is cut short when Kai Winn shows up to offer the emissary her congratulations, and also to insinuate herself in the wedding plans.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sure you asked this one Vedic to perform the ceremony because you didn't think I would be available, but
Right.
since I clearly am available, I'll talk to him for you.
Right.
We'll smooth it all out.
There's no need for this loser, what's their name, Vedic. I can handle it, don't worry. And also, while she talks to the captain, one of her entourage guys fidgets really distractingly with his sleeves, which I imagine made Vinrich Koba really wish he'd shot a tighter angle that he could cut away to if he needed.
Vedic Telna is the guy's name.
Ah, yes, Vedic Telna. Also in this scene, we get a nice shot of Sisko's clock thing from the time everybody got possessed by the crazy aliens.
It's so central when they sit down that I was sure, like, they were gonna strike up a conversation about, like, what's this weird clock thing? Oh yeah, I made that one time when aliens took over my brain.
Yep. So yeah, Kai Winn goes on her whole thing about how's like, oh no, you don't need Vedic Telna. Obviously, I'll officiate the wedding, and then Sisko just sits there quietly while she's saying all this. And then he confides to the Kai that the prophets told him he was about to go through a great trial. And then Kai Winn says, well, the prophets have never spoken to me, but I'm sure whatever this great trial it is, you'll get it all sorted out.
I feel like that's a new, like, the prophets have never spoken to me. Once upon a time, she was all about, like, oh, the prophets told me this and the prophets told me that.
I think, didn't she confide this at one point, like, maybe in the episode where Jake got possessed by the Pa Wraith or whatever?
Maybe. That would make sense. I don't recall, though.
I feel like it was a big part of her motivation, at least in that episode. So yeah, the Kai and her friends roll out, but on her way out of the office, Kai Winn suddenly flashes to a vision. Oh my gosh, it's the prophets, she says. The prophets? Oh right, yeah, that's who we are. Definitely, say the figures in her vision.
Totes prophets, that's us.
We're the prophets. You guessed correct. Anyway, we the prophets have a message for you. The Sisko has faltered, and we need you to bring about the restoration.
The restoration of what, you ask? Don't worry about that.
Kai Winn is like, well, how do I do that? And then they're like, oh, don't worry. We'll send a messenger to tell you. He will have the wisdom of the land. And the Kai is confused, but that's all she gets. And then she flashes out of the vision, just happy that the prophets have finally spoken to her.
She's like, but you're talking to me right now. Couldn't you just continue talking and tell me what I need to know?
Yeah, couldn't you tell me just the whole plan right now? But aboard the Breen ship, Worf paces around and thinks up a plot to hide next to the door to their holding cell and jump the Breen guards when they come in.
Fucking Swiss watch is this plan.
Yeah, Ezri is skeptical of this plan, as his fake health emergency ruse and his attempts to fashion a tool to jimmy the lock were not successful. So I guess Worf's just been working through all the classics.
Yep. I feel like Ezri should be more supportive of let's come up with a way to escape instead of just like tearing down everything he tries. Like that's not cool.
She's not being very positive, is she? She needs to be more of a cheerleader, I think.
Or if not that, then come up with your own plan to be successful in escaping instead of just like shooting them all down.
But then some Breen guards come in and give them their dinner, which is algae paste. So I think Ezri silently wishes she had eaten some of that space pig when she had the chance.
Yep. Also, based on the way the Breen guards come in, I was like, this high on the sides thing would not have worked unless those helmets really like limit their peripheral vision.
Could
but
be.
Whatever.
I mean, worth a try, I say. I don't know. Ezri wonders what the Breen look like under their helmets, and Worf says nobody has ever seen and lived to tell about it. Which I guess possibly he just doesn't know about the time Kira and Dukat stole those Breen outfits.
Yeah, maybe they just don't talk about it. It was so awkward what they saw under there. They just keep it to themselves.
You don't want to know. You don't want to know what's under those helmets. And then Worf tells the story about the time during the Second Empire that Chancellor Manghua sent a fleet of Klingon ships to conquer the Breen homeworld, and they were never heard from again. So either they're really dangerous, or they're just so cool that the Klingon invaders didn't want to come home. But probably the first one.
Chancellor Manghua, good Chancellor name.
Sure. I didn't know there was a Second Empire.
No, I wasn't aware, but whatever.
Sure.
They can have more than one.
Yeah, I'm sure Kronos has a really rich history, and we only know a little bit of it, so. Ezri jokes that maybe the Breen are just helping them out from their being stranded on that planet and then taking them back to Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. Good guy Breen, as they're widely known to be.
Yeah. This reminds Worf of Jadzia's habit of using humor to break the tension in dark situations. And then he says he thought he'd lost Jadzia, but he's glad now he and Ezri will have many years together. And Ezri is like, oh.
Yeah. I feel like Worf should... I feel like maybe he does know better than that, and he's just intentionally not going there.
This is some pretty classic Worf right here, though. On Cardassia Prime, Weyoun, as usual without knocking, strolls right into Damara's quarters and finds him sleeping with an empty bottle in his hand. Damara's clearly hungover when he wakes up, and it seems like he was also enjoying some lady company last night, although Damara's also sleeping in his full armor, so who knows what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how Cardassians do it, but it does seem weird that it would be in full armor.
Weyoun tells Damar, "Get up, we've got places to be," and Damar asks where they're going, and Weyoun says, "Don't worry about it, leader of Cardassia."
You have to come, but I'm not going to tell you any more than that, because I am what they call a dick.
Right. Damar says he can't come, he's got stuff to do, and Weyoun says, "You mean whatever's going on with you and Dukat? I mean, did you really think I didn't know about that?" And then I'm like, "Bullshit, Weyoun, you had no idea." I bet you just ran into him in the hallway just now.
You're like, "Hey, who's this Bajor guy?" "Oh my gosh, it's Dukat."
Weyoun steps out and Damar grabs a bottle of Kanar to start the day with, so good move.
Yeah. Little hair of the dog, you know?
Sure.
Or vole. That's how they say it on Cardassia, little hair of the vole. You probably didn't know that.
It's amazing how those those sayings line up like that.
Yeah.
But then Damar catches a glimpse of himself in the mirror, and he doesn't like what he sees. So he just turns around so he doesn't have to watch himself drinking.
Which, I mean, yeah, that works, right?
Yeah, totally. I think he solved the problem of his self-loathing. Just don't look at it.
That's how I do it.
Later, he packs his suitcase while Bajoran mode Dukat hangs out in his quarters, and Dukat is like, "Hey, look, I hate to bring this up, but I've noticed you're kind of a drunk mess these days. You need to pull yourself together. Cardassia needs a leader." And then Damar says, "Well, why don't you be the leader?" And Dukat says, No. I'm all in on this Pa Wraith stuff now."
Yep. I don't think that Weyoun and the founder would be happy with it anyway.
True, yeah, that might be a politically difficult sell. But then they part ways with a hearty "Dylan, you son of a bitch" handshake, and Dukat heads off to Deep Space Nine, and Damar heads off to wherever he's going. And then when Dukat arrives at Deep Space Nine, he stops on the promenade to take it all in, angering the people who are walking behind him, who just blow past him angrily.
I mean, you know, he's got to be inconveniencing somebody, Bajoran. That's right. Like his whole deal.
I just bet they're all like freaking tourists. Cassidy shows Ben a wedding shawl she picked out, but Ben is clearly distracted. And then he tells Cassidy about the talk he had with his prophet mom. He's conflicted, but he makes the decision that he can't disobey the prophets. And so he basically calls the wedding off.
So this is a good point to talk about this thing.
Okay.
In the original version, well, first off, they weren't going to get married until part 3 instead of part 2 of this big final 9-piece or whatever thing.
Sure. So
in that version, when the prophet warns him that he'll know nothing but sorrow, it's apparently explicitly not about the marriage. It's about him building a house on Bajor.
Huh.
And it was like, don't do that or you'll know nothing but sorrow. And like, they were still engaged. Like, they were still going to get married. It was just, the marriage was never in question at all. It's like, no, of course they're going to get married. And Renee Echevarria, who wrote the previous episode, gets to that point and is like, you know, this like, don't build a house or you will know only sorrow. Like, that didn't have a lot of punch to it. Like, it's not super compelling that Sisko's like, oh no, my house. So he was like, what if she warns him not to get married? And then Ira Steven Bear's like, yeah, we'll do that. But if we do that, then we got to deal with it in the second episode. And he'll have his like, oh no, I can't get married. But then he'll turn around, spoiler for later this episode, and be like, you know what, let's get married after all. And then he'll want to do it right away. So we'll have to do that in this episode. And I assume that's around when they changed the name till Death Do Us Part.
Probably. It was probably before they changed the name that they came to that decision.
Yeah. But. And then Ronald D. Moore is in the middle of writing part 3, Strange Bedfellows. And they're like, he's already got all this worked out with the wedding in that episode. And they're like, oh, Ron, yeah, so you can't get them married because now it's going to happen in the second hour. And according to Thompson, Ronald D. Moore's like, then what's going to happen in my show? So I guess that doesn't really sell how good the next episode may be, but there you go.
So was the episode Strange Bedfellows originally just going to be all about Ben and Cassidy and their honeymoon?
I mean, that's what it makes it sound like, right? Although in that previous one, it told us that the name of the third one was going to be something else. What was it? Hold on, I gotta go back.
Like Post Umbra or something?
No, it was like Eclipse or something, right?
Oh, right. Yep, I think you did mention that.
So I don't know what that episode was going to be like. According to this quote of Ron Moore, as told by Thompson, the wedding was definitely central to what was going on. So maybe they were going to have like all 50 of those little girls, and the Kai was going to be there presiding and all that stuff.
It was going to be the biggest budget episode of Deep Space Nine ever.
Yep. It was like, when we did that Klingon wedding? That was peanuts. This is the emissary's wedding.
Although the house thing would make more sense given the previous warning that the Sisko would never find peace on Bajor.
Yeah, it's true. Although I feel like we've already taken care of that. It's like already, if you build a house, you're not gonna have good times there because you won't find peace on Bajor. This is like a different thing.
They've already made their feelings clear about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Cassidy is clearly hurt by the whole Ben choosing the Prophets thing, so she gives Ben back his crappy ring and walks out. On the Breen ship, Ezri is having some nightmares, so Worf wakes her up, and then she describes her dream to Worf, which is that she was getting chased by some Breen through an ice cave. Then one of them grabbed her with a huge claw, which Worf points out the Breen don't have huge claws. And then the Breen took off his helmet, and it was Julian. Worf says dreams are dumb, and then you shouldn't worry about it. But as a counselor, Ezri feels that dreams are important and starts trying to break down all the symbolism of her dream.
And then Worf is like, nah, counseling's dumb too.
Right. Yeah, this annoys Worf, who grumbles that Jadzia never talked about her dreams. But then the door opens and some Breen come in with cattle prods, and then they cattle prod Worf and drag him out, leaving Ezri by herself.
I don't know, I feel like he kind of deserved it at that point, I gotta say.
Yeah. She was like, ugh, I'm glad we're not having that conversation anymore. Back on Deep Space Nine, Kai Winn is in her quarters saying a prayer to the prophets. And then one of her purple robe dudes comes in and says, hey, there's somebody who wants to see you. I guess anybody can just come and ask to see the Kai.
Yeah.
And
why not?
She'll give them a blessing.
It's Solbor, right?
Right.
The character, it says the character of Solbor was originally only supposed to be a minor role with one line of dialogue, but the producers were so impressed with James Otis and what he brought to his scene that they decided to increase his part at the last minute. So we're going to see some more Solbor.
Oh, nice. But yeah, this visitor is Gul Dukat, or...
No, not Gul Dukat. That's silly.
Angel Tanan.
Yeah, that guy.
From Reliketh. He's here for a blessing from the Kai, and he says he's just a simple man of the land. And Kai Winn is like, hold on, man of the land? You mean you have the wisdom of the land? And he's like,
No.
oh, right. Yeah, that's what I was supposed to say.
No, I don't have any wisdom. That's a completely different thing.
I'm actually pretty stupid about the land. That's why my farm is failing so bad.
I mean, it would make sense, right? Yeah.
But Winn grabs Ducat's ear, or Angel Tanan's ear, and determines that he has a strong paw, and she invites him to sit down for tea with her, and Angel Tanan / Ducat plays at being greatly honored. And then he tells more of his story, which is that Rogoth Blight destroyed his entire crop last year. In fact, most of the farms in Reliketh had the same problem, and this reminds Winn of a quote, "And the land shall be poisoned by a great evil," from Talnot's Prophecy of the Final Days.
A blight is a great evil, sure, okay.
Yeah. And then Ducat goes on to explain that when you get the Rogoth Blight, you have to burn down the entire crop and let the field lie fallow for the restoration of the soil. And Winn is like, "Oh, did you say restoration?" And then Winn takes the bait of the obvious symbolism and says, "The poison must be purged away so the land can be reborn." And then she tells Ducat / Angel that the prophets told her he would be coming to help her, and that they have anointed him to be her guide to help bring about the restoration. And then Ducat puts on a big show of being surprised and confused.
I mean, you probably would be confused if, the Pope was like, "You're going to help me bring about the restoration." And it's like, the what now?
Come drink some tea with me. But up in the captain's office, the saga of the busy repair schedule continues. Apparently now repair crews are way behind on getting Martok's ships fixed. So I don't know if this is related to the Romulans jumping in line on the repair schedule or what, but
I mean, we got warned that if the Romulans got in first, then Martok would be held back. So just I guess Worf was supposed to tell him and explain that to him, and I guess Worf then disappeared or something, so it never worked out.
Right, yeah. But obviously, this is a very important plot thread we need to pay attention to. Who knows how it'll pay off? But then Sisko tells Kira about the prophets telling him not to marry Cassidy, and Kira takes the opposite stance of Jake. It says, "Screw Cassidy, you gotta do what the prophets say."
I mean, yeah, if the prophets said it, that sucks for her, but what are you gonna do?
Right. Yeah, Sisko's like, "Well, but shouldn't I have, free will and be able to make my own mistakes?" And Kira's like, "Nope, do what the prophets say." End of discussion.
No. Yeah. Silly human.
Meanwhile, on a Jem'Hadar ship, on the mysterious trip that Weyoun won't tell Damar about, Boom Boom Parkins comes to the bridge, looking very not well. Basically, to ask Weyoun, "Are we there yet?" And Weyoun was like, "Go to sleep, I'll tell you when we're there, okay?" And Boom Boom was like, "Okay, fine. And by the way, is Damar going to be cool with this, or is this going to be a thing?" And Weyoun was like, he'll be cool, just go to bed."
We haven't told him about it yet, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
Right. On the Breen ship, this time Worf is having nightmares, seemingly something about dishonoring Jadzia's memory, and then he also cries out Alexander, which I assume he's about to say, "Alexander, you're such a crappy son." But Ezri wakes him up. And Worf says that the Breen took him to an interrogation room and used a cortical implant to probe his memory, but he doesn't know what they were looking for. Worf has apparently come to a decision about the Breen, which is that they are without honor.
I mean, shocker.
The verdict is in on whether the Breen have honor or not.
Yep. I mean, he was in a prison camp with a Breen that one time, and that guy seemed okay.
True. But this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. He's now firmly on the he doesn't like the Breen side.
Yep.
Ezri tries to calm him with some algae paste, but Worf throws a little temper tantrum about being held captive and not being able to do anything about it, and so on. This is interrupted by some Breen coming in. This is the usual rhythm of the scene. Is Worf is throwing a tantrum about something, and then some Breen come in and cut him off.
I mean, thanks, Breen. I appreciate it, honestly.
Worf tries to fight the Breen, but he gets a hefty dose of cattle prod, and they grab Ezri and drag her out.
I mean, those are some good cattle prods. These Klingons love those pain sticks, which we're told are like the craziest cattle prods ever. But these Breen cattle prods, they just take the cake.
Ducat/Angel and Kai Winn share a bottle of super rare spring wine that she was going to give the emissary as a wedding gift.
Yeah, that's kind of messed up, honestly, when she says that.
Yeah, I guess she decided, screw it, I'm going to drink it with this guy instead. But maybe also the news has gotten out that the wedding is off.
Oh, could be. She's just like, he wouldn't appreciate it. He's not one of us, you know?
Yeah. Angel and Winn vent to each other about how the emissary isn't a Bajoran. He can't appreciate good spring wine. And he didn't live through the occupation, so he can never truly understand the scars on the Bajoran soul. And then Angel tells the story about how he survived the occupation, which is that Gul Dukat ordered 100 Bajorans from Reliketh to be rounded up for a public execution, I guess at random.
Yep. I mean, that's how they did it. Randomness was very important.
But I can't believe there's no statues of Gul Dukat on Bajor. It's just... It's so sad. But the transport Angel was on got accidentally sent to a labor camp instead because of a mistake by the dispatcher. Winn is amazed and says, "That was no mistake. I bribed that guy to reroute the transport." "Wow, what an amazing coincidence," says Angel. "Our fates must be linked." And then she's like, "Also, since you mentioned Gul Dukat, has anybody ever told you you look and sound a lot like him?"
I don't know that.
No.
Have we ever seen Winn like interact directly with Gul Dukat?
I mean, he must have been on those giant TV screens they love.
That's true. Yeah.
A bunch. Captain Sisko sits alone in his quarters, sulking and looking at his model house, when Quark comes by to pay him a visit. Quark has brought the wedding ring that Sisko ordered, and is quick to say, "Sorry, no refunds." "But if you ask me," he says, "it's really a shame to let something so beautiful go to waste." You see, it's like a metaphor. Something beautiful could also refer to the beautiful relationship you had with Cassidy. He's like, yeah, I get it.
And Quark saves the day.
Right? It's Jake. We talked to Jake, we talked to Kira, but it's Quark's advice that's gonna set Sisko straight.
Yeah.
But Quark leaves, and Sisko stares at the ring and sulks some more. Then the Breen drag Ezri back to the holding cell, and Ezri is in a delirious state and recites various lines from earlier in the season, like "I'll help you, Garrick," and stuff like that.
Yep. Only from parts of her life that were in this season are the things that she says, not like other things.
Only the past few months.
Yeah.
Then she says, "I was your wife. Why don't you talk to me? I love you. Kiss me, Julian." And Worf is like, "What? When was she ever married to Julian?"
I thought it was pretty clear that those were like separate statements.
Oh, okay. At night, the Kai is lying in bed, clearly being kept awake by a busy mind, and then she gets a message from Solbor that Angel wants to see her, and Solbor is clearly not happy with the whole thing.
It looks like he got woken up, so...
Yeah. He grumpily returns to bed. Angel tells Winn that something wonderful has happened. His brother called him and told him that he found MOBA saplings sprouting in the soil, even though they only planted last week. Winn says it's a sign from the prophets. Your farm will thrive under your brother's care, and you should stay here by my side. And then she tells Angel to call her Adami. And then something truly horrible happens. Kai Winn and Gul Dukat kiss.
Yeah, it's a bold choice to make, for sure. And there's even a note in here. Some fans felt that the idea of that Winn and Dukat embark upon a sexual relationship was a bit over the top. But Brad Thompson explains that was the point. He says, "The idea of Dukat wooing Winn appealed to us on a very twisted level. Our two bad guys were going to mate. We were howling with glee at the idea." And then Irish Stephen Barry goes, "Oh yeah, the two characters are so worthy of scene after scene after scene, and when we decided they were actually going to have a physical relationship, it was just dementedly wonderful." So there you go.
Later, Cassidy is in a cargo bay getting ready for a freighter run, and wearing an outfit that, frankly, works quite nicely on her. And then Ben rushes in a kind of worryingly manic state and says he's made a decision. Screw the prophets. He loves Cassidy, and he wants to get married. And Cassidy is like, "Don't toy with my emotions if you're just going to change your mind." And he says, "Oh, don't worry." And he whisks her away to the wardroom.
I mean, this does feel like we've already changed our mind a couple of times. I don't trust his commitment here.
Right. I'm getting a little concerned. But yeah, he takes her to the wardroom where all the main characters are gathered for an impromptu wedding. But, however, Julian says it's too bad Ezri and Worf couldn't make it.
Them being mysteriously gone or dead or something.
Right, yeah, Miles jokes that they probably got held up picking out a wedding gift. And then Julian is like, no, remember Worf's ship blew up and he's presumed dead? And Ezri went off to find him and she never came back? I mean, they're dead, dude. Like, how come we're not talking about this?
Because there's a wedding.
True.
A last-minute wedding.
And Kira is sitting with Odo and looking worried. And Odo remarks that usually she's the one having to remind him to smile. And he wonders why they decided not to go with the Bajoran ceremony and jokes that he hopes the prophets will forgive them. And Kira just says, so do I, with a lot of heavy meaning.
Some gravitas there, yeah.
Yep. Then Nog comes in and blows a bosun whistle to announce the arrival of the bride. Cassidy is changed into a dress, which also kind of works on her.
Yeah.
Jake gives away the bride, and Admiral Ross gets right to work talking them through their wedding vows, which annoyingly do not contain the words, till death do us part.
Yeah, so there was a note in an earlier episode that I couldn't read at the time, but in Inter Arnum Sealant Legis or whatever, it was like, we had Ross working with Section 31 here, but we had to be like, well, he's not a member of Section 31. He was just kind of like helping him out this one time. He wasn't all bad, because if he was like a bad guy, then we couldn't have him marry Sisko later. So, we had to make that clear.
Sure. But Sisko and Cassidy say their I do's, much to Kira's horror, and then they get to exchanging the rings. But as Ben is putting the ring on Cassidy, he flashes to a vision of his prophet mom, who's like, what the hell? I told you not to get married. And Ben is like, no, you what the hell? I'm right in the middle of the ceremony.
You're not the boss of me.
And then she repeats her warnings of the difficult path to come, etc. But then she tells him, be careful, my son, and hugs him, and sends him back. And Ben finishes putting the ring on Cassidy, and Admiral Ross declares them husband and wife, and everybody claps.
Yay.
On the Jem'Hadar ship, Damar barges onto the bridge and demands that Weyoun tell them where they're going, and Weyoun was like, oh, right, yeah, you're the leader of Cardassia, and I should probably tell you this stuff.
I was totally just on my way to tell you.
Right, exactly. No, I doubt it. But he's like, and I think you're going to be very pleased, because we're going to Space Disneyland. And Damar is like, yay! But on the Breen ship, Worf is upset with Ezri and tells her he should not have trusted her with his heart. And Ezri is like, what? And Worf is like, you were calling out Dr. Bashir's name in your delirious state, and you said that you loved him. And Ezri says, no, I don't love him. I mean, he's hot and I totally do him, but I don't love him. And then Worf is like, aha! Did Jadzia have feelings for him too? But then once again, the Breen come in with their cattle prods, and this time they beam away, and onto the bridge of the Jem'Hadar ship, where Damar and Weyoun are. What a twist.
I was kind of like, at what point, when we're intercutting between these two ships in space going to no one knows where, does it become obvious that they are going to meet each other?
I'm pretty sure every time we saw the Jem'Hadar ship, it was flying left to right, and every time we saw the Breen ship, it was flying right to left.
Yeah, I like something like that seemed to be the case to me. I thought it was the other way around, with the Breen going left to right and the Jem'Hadar going right to left. But yes, it definitely, I feel like that they're telegraphing it as hard as they can.
Right. So I wonder where this could be leading. But one of the Breens says something in their robot-sounding language, which Weyoun is able to understand, so I guess he has, like, a better universal translator than we do. But Weyoun is like, what? Gifts? How thoughtful! And then the Breen present Weyoun with Worf and Ezri. And then Weyoun tells Worf and Ezri, you are witnessing the birth of the alliance between the Dominion and the Breen.
Yeah, I don't know how he didn't notice them standing there. Worf is real tall.
Right.
But
yeah, I know, it's obvious that Worf is standing right there. But yeah, Weyoun was like, changes everything, doesn't it? And Ezri and Worf just kind of look at each other with sidelong glances as if to say, does it change everything, though? The end.
I mean, we don't know that much about the Breen, so... It's not that, like, we saw them in charge of a desert prison mine one time, and we were told in this very episode that they one time destroyed a whole armada of Klingon ships, but...
Yeah, I think that was the writers trying to be like, oh no, the Breen, they're not to be messed with. They're bad. So, I guess now we have to take the Breen seriously.
Yeah. Or something.
Sure.
Okay, so there's one last note here. It says that they wrote the first 4 episodes all kind of at the same time.
Okay.
And during the writing process, Rene Echevarria realized that he made a mistake that could cause serious problems in the second batch of episodes. Specifically, he felt that he had introduced the Dukat plotline too early in relation to the overall proceedings. By having Dukat assume a Bajoran identity in Penumbra and then setting up the meeting between him and Winn in Till Death Do Us Part, it meant that their storyline had to be extended out over 7 subsequent episodes. And he's like, suddenly we realized that we didn't really need them again until way later. And so I was told, find a way to stall. I needed to leave them in a place where the audience would feel, okay, they're doing a thing, but I don't need to see them do it. So I guess we can judge as we continue through the next few episodes how like active or relevant their story seems to be.
Oh, so that wasn't him being like, well, if I imply that they're banging, then the audience won't want to see that.
No, it was although I feel like he should have that should have also been a consideration.
I'm perfectly fine just assuming that they're like hanging out, banging all the time until we need them again. But we can jump right into reviews, I guess, unless you said that was the last note, right?
Yeah, that's the last one I got.
Well, how do you feel about this episode, Till Death Do Us Part?
Okay, so I like what we're starting to set up with Dukat and Winn. You know, he becomes a Bajoran in like at the end of the previous episode, and it's like, okay, well, what are we doing? And I don't think I expect him to like, I'm gonna hook up with the Kai. Like, that's definitely not where my mind goes. Even after Kai Winn shows up on the station, because she has a good excuse to be there, like, oh, the emissary's getting married. Well, obviously, I have to involve myself in this. Like, I don't question her being on the station as, you know, some weird contrivance, because it makes complete sense. And then the two of them start this thing, and it's like, oh, all right, I didn't see. I like that I didn't see it coming, and I like the idea of putting these two like villainous characters together, and we're gonna see what comes out of that. So that's a fun setup, but it is very clearly all set up here.
Yeah.
The will they, won't they with the Sisko wedding, I don't know. I said last time, I feel like it was like, hey, let's tick a box and get them married before we hit the end. And it feels like more box ticking to me, that it's like, oh, it can't go too smoothly. We got to have something like pop up, but then we'll just immediately swat it back down with really very little in the way of reason. Other than, I mean, you could say that Quark had an influence, or maybe Jake had an influence, but really it just seems like Sisko sat around and thought about it for a while and then was like, you know what? No, I changed my mind. It's not the most active or interesting, like, resolution to that. And then you get them married and it's like, okay, they got married.
Right.
Cool. I guess we'll see what this deal is with the prophets, why he's going to know nothing but sadness or whatever. I don't care about the Ezri Worf stuff so much. Like, I didn't like them hooking up in the previous episode. I don't like the stupid drama of Worf being just a big drama queen about it in this episode, which he always is about all of, like, anytime there's any conflict, Worf has to be a giant drama queen about it. And it's like, it gets old. And so I don't like that part of it. I do like the introduction of the Breen and the alliance with the Dominion. It's like, we needed something to shake up the war here at the end. And because we've spent a lot of the season kind of being like, oh yeah, that war's going on, whatever. We've got more important stuff to do, like play baseball. Or was that this season? Whatever. Doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I think it was.
So we've kind of ignored the war more than we probably should have at this point. Although there were good episodes, we
Sure.
had some good stuff about the war, AR 558 or whatever, and stuff like that. But it often, ever since the war started, there's like really cool, intense war episodes, and then we have this like, oh, and then we don't care about the war for a while because we have to be an episodic thing. And so I like that we're like, okay, before we get to the end, it's going to be like the war is going to change shape some here. I appreciate that, and I'm interested to see where that goes. That could lead to some fun stuff, to some fun battles and things, because we don't know anything about the Breen. They might bring some really interesting stuff to the table. So basically, all of that to say that it is a real mixed bag for me. There's some stuff that I really like, and there's some stuff that I just could not care less about.
Right.
And even still, it feels like a lot of setup. You could say that at least we tied off something with the wedding thing, but even that is like, oh, but there's going to be consequences. What will those consequences be? So it makes sense. We're in a big 9-part finale. This is only the second part of the 9 parts. It makes sense that we're still setting the table here. But I think that keeps it from reaching really great heights because we're so busy putting everything where it needs to be that we're not making a real interesting episode out of it. But I don't dislike it. I mean, like I said, it's a mixed bag. There's some stuff that I do dislike, but overall, I'm just like, it's an okay episode. I'm going to put it just above the line at Lieutenant Commander.
Sure. All right. Yeah, I mean, there's not really much in the episode I like actively dislike, except for maybe the Worf and Ezri stuff, because I feel like that's just being drawn out too long. And I mean, as we've said, Worf is pretty much in full like Rise of Vacation mode right now, and it's not fun. The Ben and Cassidy wedding stuff. I mean, I'm glad that like they're not drawing it out too much. Ben makes his decision and gets married. I'm fine with that. I think the main thing is definitely the Dukat and Kai Winn stuff. That's the most interesting thing happening in the episode. But it's like, all right, like, here's what we're doing. But it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, where are we going to go with this from here? Obviously, like, Dukat and the Pa Wraiths have some kind of evil plan. So, the whole episode does have kind of a feeling that we're kind of like building up momentum. But it's building up that momentum really slow. So it's like, it's not a bad episode by any means, but I think it's just got that same like multi-part problem that we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
We're not doing the episodic thing anymore. So, I'd like to rate it positively, but it's just like, it's definitely not a full enough meal to give it a commander, I don't think. So I think I'll go ahead and also call it a Lieutenant Commander.
Okay.
So you have any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
I'm excited to keep going into these episodes because we've been setting up a couple episodes. Things are going to start like kicking off soon, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, hopefully this chunking, this clacking up the upslope of the roller coaster is gonna reach its peak. So hopefully gonna be a fun ride. But yeah, so that's our discussion of Till Death Do Us Part. Thanks for listening. If you like listening to that, maybe you'll like our discussion of the first time we saw the Breen, or the first time we really saw the Breen, which was in Indiscretion. I think that was still before the time we saw them in
the prison camp. Yeah, it was well before that.
Yeah, and I think that was also the episode where Dukat sat on a cactus. That was fun.
It was. Yep. There's all sorts of good stuff happening in that episode.
Right. But yeah, you can find that review wherever you're listening to this. And if you want to leave us a comment, you could do that on YouTube. But my name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
Peace.
We look forward to seeing you next week on Undeclared Bajor. But remember, just don't look at yourself in the mirror while you're drinking. It's not a fun time.
Just don't look at yourself at all. You know what you look like. It's fine.
There's no need to look back.
No.